My mill gave me a brand new red Mercedes-Benz S-Class for my birthday. Do you like it? It's the latest model. You should be grateful. But I never drove it. My husband noticed. Why won't you drive it? I smiled. Get in and see for yourself. Huh. He sat in the driver's seat and started the engine. His face froze. And then everything became clear. My mom gave me a brand new red Mercedes-Benz S-Class for my birthday. Do you like it? It's the latest model. You should be grateful, she said. But I never drove it. When my husband noticed, he asked, why won't you take it for a spin? I just smiled and replied, get in and see for yourself. He climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. His expression froze and suddenly everything became clear. In a sleek Manhattan high-rise, Amy Wilson was focused at her desk, racing against a looming deadline for a design project. The setting sun streamed through the window, highlighting her copper hair as she made final tweaks on her graphic tablet. Her home office, neat yet bursting with creative energy, was her sanctuary as a freelance designer. The sound of jangling keys and the opening door announced her husband Richard's return. I'm back, Amy, he said in a slightly tired tone. Welcome home, she replied with genuine warmth, asking, how was your day? Richard loosened his tie and sank onto the sofa. Just the usual, 2 client meetings, 1 team meeting, and a mountain of paperwork, he explained as he poured himself a glass of water. And you? He asked. I'm nearly finished with a new client's logo. A few more adjustments and I'll have it ready to submit tomorrow, Amy responded proudly. Richard, tall and imposing yet gentle, had built a successful career as a sales manager at a major insurance company. He'd met Amy 5 years ago at a mutual friend's party and fell in love at first sight, drawn in by her creativity and straightforward nature, while she admired his sincerity and kindness. Their marriage was mostly smooth, with both cherishing their careers and sometimes talking about starting a family. Yet, a persistent cloud hung over their relationship. Richard's mother, Beverly. By the way, Mom called, Richard remarked casually. I miss you. His tone shifted as he added, she mentioned your birthday next week. She says she has a special gift for you. Amy's smile wavered for just a moment. How thoughtful, she said, though a hint of tension laced her voice. It had been 15 years since Beverly lost her husband, John. Outwardly elegant and sophisticated, Beverly was known for her sharp intellect and iron will. Deep down, though, her world revolved around her only son, Richard, and she believed no one could ever take his love from her. From the start of their marriage, Beverly had been cool toward Amy, mixing polite niceties with subtle criticisms and backhanded compliments that always left Amy feeling uneasy. Mom really seems to want to make amends with you, Richard said hopefully. Maybe this gift is her way of reconciling. Amy sighed softly. Richard always saw the best in his mother, even if it sometimes blinded him to her faults. Did she say what the gift is? She asked. She said it's a secret, but you'll be surprised, he replied. Despite her rising anxiety, Amy managed a small smile. Beverly's surprises usually left her uncomfortable, yet for Richard's sake, she tried to keep her composure. I'm looking forward to it, she said. On Amy's birthday, friends and family gathered at their apartment for an intimate celebration. Even though she was nervous, being among familiar faces in her own space helped ease her mind. Around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the doorbell rang. When Richard opened the door, there stood Beverly, her silver hair perfectly styled, dressed in an elegant tweed suit, and carrying herself with a queenly dignity. Thank you for coming, Richard, she said, and he embraced her warmly. Of course I would. I wouldn't miss Amy's special day. Turning to Amy, Beverly said smoothly, Happy birthday, Amy, planting a kiss on her cheek. The bold scent of her perfume nearly overwhelmed Amy, who managed a polite, Thank you, Beverly. Then Beverly raised her voice to capture everyone's attention. Everyone, please come outside and see my gift for Amy. Curiosity piqued. The guests followed her out into the street in front of the building. There, basking in the sunlight, was a dazzling red Mercedes-Benz S-Class. Amy gasped. The car was undeniably magnificent, yet a part of her felt that the extravagant gift was as much about showmanship and control as it was generosity. Do you like it? Beverly asked in a sweet tone. It's the latest model. I had it specially ordered, she explained as onlookers murmured their admiration. Handing Amy the keys, she added with a smile that bordered on command, You should be grateful. It's wonderful, thank you, Amy replied, maintaining the calm professionalism expected of her, though a storm of conflicting emotions churned inside. Richard's face lit up with joy. This is amazing, he exclaimed, wrapping his arms around Beverly. Amy, what do you think? Isn't it fantastic? Amy looked at the car with a trace of unease. Yes, it's unbelievable, she answered honestly, though she couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right about such a lavish present, especially since Beverly never did things without an ulterior motive. A week later, after returning from shopping in her compact car, Amy noticed the red Mercedes parked next to her in the lot. The car, which she had never driven, shone like a glaring red warning light in her field of vision. With heavy shopping bags in both hands, she made her way to the elevator, recalling that Richard had asked several times why she wouldn't use his mother's gift. Each time she had replied, "My current car works fine," or "I need time to adjust." The truth was, she suspected the gift was not born from genuine goodwill. Back inside, a message from Richard on the answering machine read, "I'll be late tonight. I have a dinner with clients. Don't worry, love you, Amy." Setting her bags down, Amy's eyes drifted to the red Mercedes through the window. "This is my chance to check it out," she decided. Determined, she returned to the parking lot, retrieved the keys and approached the car. After ensuring no hidden cameras were watching, she opened the driver's door. The rich aroma of luxury leather greeted her. Everything from the gleaming dashboard and smooth seats to the meticulously designed control panel seemed perfect. Yet, when she inserted the key and started the engine, something felt off. The sound was slightly irregular, and a faint vibration traveled through the steering wheel. Lacking experience with high-end vehicles, Amy wondered if this was normal. "Maybe it's just my imagination. I'm no Mercedes expert," she mused. Her curiosity growing, Amy began exploring the car's dashboard. As she navigated the menu, she discovered that a user profile was already set up. "Beverly Wilson, of course," she muttered, surprised that her mother-in-law's information was preloaded on what was supposed to be a brand new car. Digging into the navigation history, she found addresses for Beverly's home, their apartment, and several upscale shopping centers. Then a disconcerting discovery. A vehicle tracking feature was enabled. "What's this?" Amy wondered aloud as she read the description, which explained that the car was sending its location in real time to a smartphone app under the account name B. Wilson. Unease deepened when she uncovered another enabled function, a recording feature that automatically captured conversations inside the car and sent them to the same account. "Oh my God," Amy whispered. It became chillingly clear that Beverly intended to monitor both her and Richard. With trembling hands, Amy opened the glove compartment and pulled out the car's manual. Leafing through hundreds of pages, she searched for details about the engine's normal performance. The manual clearly stated that the S-Class engine should run quietly with virtually no idle vibration. The vibration she'd felt was clearly abnormal. Listening intently once more to the engine, she confirmed a slight but unusual sound. Grabbing her smartphone, she scoured online forums for explanations about Mercedes-Benz S-Class engine irregularities, learning that such issues could lead to serious mechanical problems. Next, Amy checked the vehicle information screen to review the car's history. To her shock, the display revealed that the car wasn't new at all. The sale date was 6 months old. "This can't be right," she whispered. Beverly had insisted it was the latest model, and that she had specially ordered it. Not willing to let the matter rest, Amy recorded the car's VIN and used an online vehicle history report service. After paying a fee and downloading the report, the terrible truth emerged. The car was used and had a history of accidents. The previous owner had been in a highway collision that caused major front-end damage. Although repairs had been made, crucial engine parts were never fully restored. The report even warned of potential hazards during high-speed or long-distance driving. Amy's hands trembled as she realized that Beverly hadn't given her a generous gift at all. A dangerous car was being used to keep tabs on her, and worst of all, it could put her in serious danger. Shutting off the engine, Amy stepped out into the cool night air. As it brushed her face, she wondered how she would tell Richard about this horrifying discovery. Could he believe that his own mother was behind this scheme? Back in the apartment, she resolved to gather solid evidence. She snapped photos, printed out the vehicle report, and took screenshots of the car's tracking and recording settings. She needed irrefutable proof to confront Richard with the truth. That night, lying awake in bed and staring at the ceiling, Amy's mind raced. Now that she understood the true purpose behind Beverly's gift, she knew she had to act to protect herself and Richard. Yet she also had to be cautious, not wanting to hurt Richard's feelings or shatter his trust in his mother. The next weekend morning, Richard stood by the window, a cup of coffee in hand, gazing thoughtfully at the parking lot. The red Mercedes-Benz, bathed in the gentle morning sunlight, caught his eye as he sipped slowly. "It's strange," he murmured to himself before turning toward Amy, who was quietly sitting on the sofa, unaware of the storm that was about to unfold. "It's been 2 weeks since we got that car, and you haven't driven it even once." Amy looked up from her laptop and said carefully, "Yeah, I need more time to get used to it. Plus, Mom's been calling me nearly every day." Richard sat down next to her on the sofa and asked, "Are you really happy with the car? Is something wrong? You seem uneasy." Taking a deep breath, Amy admitted, "I think there's a problem with it." For days, she'd been trying to find the right moment to reveal what she'd discovered. The car's accident history, engine issues, and even a hidden surveillance system. Given Richard's close relationship with his mom, it was hard to bring up. Richard's eyes searched hers. "There's something you're not telling me. Lately you've been so tense, especially when it comes to Mom." Amy clenched her jaw. "Richard, there's a serious issue with this car." "A serious issue? What do you mean?" he asked. "It's easier if I show you than explain." Amy stood up. "Let's go to the car." They walked down to the parking lot in silence, and Amy's heart pounded. knowing that what she was about to reveal could change everything. Standing in front of the red Mercedes, she pulled out the keys. "Get in and see for yourself," she said. Richard, still skeptical, opened the driver's door. "What exactly should I be checking?" "Just start the engine first," Amy replied as she sat in the passenger seat. Richard turned the key, and the engine roared to life. Although he wasn't a car expert, his past rides in luxury vehicles made him aware of how a genuine Mercedes-Benz S-Class should sound. "The engine sounds off," he noted. "I'm feeling vibrations too." "That's not what you'd expect from a new high-end car," Amy said. "Mom said it was new, but listen." She pulled out her smartphone and opened the saved vehicle history report. "Look at this." Richard leaned in and his face went pale as he read aloud. "This car has an accident history, and it was sold 6 months ago. It's not new. It's a used car that was repaired after an accident," Amy explained quietly. "Key engine parts weren't fixed properly, making it unsafe for long drives." Richard's eyes widened in disbelief. How could this happen? "Wait, there's more." Amy tapped the dashboard to bring up the navigation system settings. "See this? It shows a profile for Beverly Wilson with vehicle tracking and voice recording enabled." Richard's face froze. "Is that a surveillance device?" he stammered. "Exactly," Amy replied. "Every conversation in this car is being recorded and sent to her account, and the car's location is constantly shared with her smartphone." Richard's hands dropped to his knees as he stared blankly out the window. "Why would Mom do something like this?" he whispered. Taking his hand, Amy said, "I don't want to blame Beverly, but it's clearly intentional. She gave us a car with a dangerous accident history, and now she's monitoring us." Anger crept into Richard's voice. "This is unacceptable. It's obvious she lied, and I can't believe she'd do something so manipulative." "I don't know why she did it," Amy said softly, "but the car isn't safe and our privacy is being invaded. We need to have it checked by a professional." Richard switched off the engine and sighed. "Let's take it to an independent repair shop immediately, without telling Mom." As they headed back to the apartment, Richard suddenly stopped. "How long have you known about this?" he asked. "A few days," Amy admitted. "I struggled with how to tell you. I didn't want to hurt your relationship with Beverly." Placing his hand on her shoulder, Richard said, "You did the right thing. This is shocking, but I needed to know the truth. If Mom really did this, I'll have to rethink my relationship with her." As they rode the elevator, he added quietly, "Ever since I was a kid, Mom has been overprotective, but I never imagined she'd go this far. She always had high standards for who I married, but I chose you, and I'm proud of that." Amy squeezed his hand. "We'll get through this together." Back at the apartment, Richard picked up the phone and called a trusted local auto repair shop. "I need someone to inspect a car first thing tomorrow morning," he said, citing safety concerns without giving details. After hanging up, he looked at Amy and managed a sad smile. "I'm glad you didn't drive it, just in case something went wrong." Amy rested her head on his arm. "So what now?" she asked. "First, we need a full assessment of the car's condition," Richard replied determinedly. "Then we'll have a serious talk with Mom." Outside, the evening light streamed through the window, its red glow echoing the dangerous gift waiting in the lot. The next morning, they drove the red Mercedes to Morrison Auto Repair Shop, a reputable independent facility Richard had called earlier. Both were quiet and anxious as they arrived. An older gentleman with neatly combed gray hair greeted them. "I'm Tom Morrison, as per your call," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Richard Wilson, and this is my wife Amy," Richard replied, his voice nervous. Morrison examined the red Mercedes carefully. "What seems to be the issue?" he asked. "The engine sound is off," Amy explained. "We need to verify if it's really new." Morrison raised an eyebrow but got straight to work. "Let's run a computerized diagnosis, then inspect the engine closely." While they waited in the office with coffee in hand, Richard stared out the window. "I can't believe my mother would do this," he finally said, his voice heavy with hurt. "Especially if it puts you at risk." Amy gently covered his hand. "We won't know for sure until Mr. Morrison gives us his diagnosis." About an hour later, Morrison returned with a grim expression and a detailed report. "I have some troubling news," he said, sitting down. "This car isn't new. It's been in service for at least 9 months. Richard leaned forward. "And what about the engine?" Morrison sighed. "Frankly, it's dangerous. The engine mounts were badly repaired, and several key parts aren't original. At high speeds or during long drives, the engine could fail completely, even stop while driving, which could cause a serious accident." A chill ran down Amy's spine. "That's exactly what I feared," she whispered. Morrison continued, "I also found unusual electronic devices in the car, a sophisticated surveillance system integrated with the navigation. This isn't something a standard used car dealership would install. Someone must have ordered it specifically." Richard's face went pale. "Thank you, Mr. Morrison," he said quietly. "Could you give us a written report?" Morrison nodded, handing over the document. "I also recommend you leave the car here until you decide what to do." It's not safe to drive in its current state. After leaving the keys with Morrison, Richard and Amy rode the elevator back to their apartment. Suddenly, Richard punched the wall, his voice trembling with anger and sadness. Why would Mom do something like this? Amy wrapped her arms around him, offering silent support. I need to see my mother, Richard said firmly. That afternoon, Amy and Richard drove the car to Beverly's upscale apartment. Richard stayed silent as Amy led the way. He was lost in thought. At the entrance, the doorman greeted them cheerfully. Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, welcome. Don't announce us, Richard said. It's a surprise. Mom will be pleased to see us. They took the luxurious elevator to the top floor and stood before Beverly's penthouse door. Richard rang the bell, and soon Beverly herself opened it. Richard, Amy, what a lovely surprise, she said, forcing a smile. But when her eyes met their serious expressions, her smile faded. Is something wrong? Let's talk inside. Richard's tone was cold as they stepped into the living room. Would you like some tea? Beverly asked anxiously. No, thank you, Amy replied, and the tension in the room grew unmistakable. Once they all sat on the sofa, Richard opened Morrison's diagnostic report. Mom, we need to talk about the car you gave Amy as a present. Beverly tensed for a split second before quickly regaining her composure. That wonderful car. Didn't Amy love it? You said it was new, Richard pressed, locking eyes with her. Of course, Beverly replied with a smile. I made sure to order the latest model. Richard then laid the report on the coffee table. That's a lie, he said, his voice trembling. This isn't a new car. It's a used one with a history of accidents. The engine is dangerously compromised and could lead to a serious crash on long drives. Beverly's face froze. That can't be. I bought it from an authorized dealer. But there's more, Amy said softly. They've installed surveillance devices in the car to record every conversation and send the data to your smartphone. Beverly's face paled. That's ridiculous. She abruptly stood up. I only wanted to give a nice present. Richard also stood, facing his mother squarely. Enough, Mom. All the evidence is right here. He produced additional documents. These are the purchase records. You bought this car from a used car dealer and had those devices installed after repairs. The color drained from Beverly's face as she sank back onto the sofa, silent for a long moment. Finally, she looked up with an unfamiliar coldness in her eyes. You deserve a better woman, she said to Richard. This woman is manipulating you, Mom. Unable to contain his anger, Richard shot back. Amy is my wife, and you're the one who endangered her life. That car isn't safe, Beverly argued. It might have a few issues but nothing fatal. Nothing fatal? Amy repeated in disbelief. Mr. Morrison said the engine could stall while driving at high speed. Beverly's voice suddenly turned icy. I just wanted to eliminate her. Make it look like an accident. A heavy silence filled the room as Richard stared at his mother, struggling to comprehend her words. You tried to kill me, he managed to say. In a faint voice, Amy added, I can't believe what I'm hearing. Beverly simply shrugged. I didn't think it would go that far. I just assumed you'd get so scared you'd stop driving it, and then it would be yours. She forced a smile at Richard. It was always meant for you, son. Horror and disgust washed over Richard's face. This is the end, Mom, he said in a trembling voice. Our relationship is over. Beverly hurriedly stood up. You're my only son. Are you really going to abandon me for this woman? Richard's voice was quiet but firm. Amy is not that woman. She's my wife and my life partner. And now that you've tried to hurt her, I can't call you Mom anymore. Beverly's face contorted as she threatened. You'll regret this. I'm not worthy of you. Goodbye, Mom. Taking Amy's hand, Richard said, Don't contact us anymore. If you need to, we'll talk through our lawyers. As they headed for the door, Beverly's final words echoed. I only wanted to protect you, Richard. But he didn't look back. In the elevator, as the doors closed, Richard exhaled deeply. It's over, he murmured wearily. Amy rested her head on his shoulder. Are you okay? She asked softly. No, not at all, Richard admitted, squeezing her hand. But things will get better from now on. We'll get through this together. Outside, a gentle sunset embraced them as they left. 1 year later, Amy and Richard were having breakfast in the backyard of their new suburban home. The soft morning light bathed the garden, where flowers bloomed and birds chirped pleasantly. With a coffee cup in hand, Richard said, Thank you, as Amy smiled and passed him her cup. Her rounded belly clearly showed the new life growing within her. Their daughter was due in 2 months. Richard gently placed his hand on Amy's belly, smiling at the subtle movements. She's active, no matter if it's midnight or morning, he said, full of energy. Amy laughed. Just like you. Their lives had changed dramatically over the past year. After the confrontation with his mother, Richard began seeing a counselor to sort out his complicated relationship with Beverly. Learning to distinguish between a mother's love and her need for control wasn't easy, but therapy was slowly helping him heal. They had moved into their new home 6 months earlier, leaving their cramped Manhattan apartment for a spacious house with a garden. A true fresh start. Amy continued her design work from home while preparing for the baby, and Richard, still at the same company, had started prioritizing work-life balance. "I'll finish painting the baby's room this afternoon," Richard said, taking a bite of toast. "The lilac and cream combination is brilliant. As a designer, I take pride in that." Amy winked. "That room is going to be perfect." Their conversation was interrupted by the phone ringing. Richard glanced at the screen, his face tensing slightly. It was from Mom. Amy studied his expression. Despite the incident, Richard had maintained a limited monthly phone call with Beverly on professional advice, keeping his distance. After a brief conversation, he hung up. "Mom says she wants to send something for the baby," he said, his expression mixed with hesitation and concern. "Don't worry," Amy said carefully. "I won't let Mom manipulate us again. If she sends anything, I'll check it first." Richard took her hand reassuringly. "I know you will." Beverly had softened somewhat after hearing about her grandchild, but Amy still couldn't fully trust her. "I know you'll protect me and our child," Amy said quietly. Richard wrapped his arms around her. "We're a family. There will be challenges, but we'll overcome them together." As the morning sun climbed higher, announcing a new day, the lingering shadows of the past still loomed. But Amy and Richard moved forward, hopeful that the new life soon to be born would bring them renewed hope and joy.